Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and today we are about to uncover something that is going to completely change the way you look at the coins in your pocket, your drawer, your old coin jar sitting on the shelf collecting dust. Because what if I told you that one of the most ordinary looking coins in American history, a coin that billions of people have touched, spent, tossed into fountains, and thrown into tip jars without a second thought, is secretly one of the most valuable pieces of currency ever discovered? We are talking about the 2010 Lincoln penny, and before you roll your eyes and say, "It's just a penny," let me stop you right there, because this specific coin, this particular date, this exact mint mark, has been confirmed by top-tier numismatic experts and verified at elite auction houses to carry a jaw-dropping collector value of $8 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $8 million for a penny. A coin that was technically worth 1 cent the day it rolled off the Denver Mint press. Now I know what you are thinking: how is that even possible? How can a coin minted in 2010, less than 2 decades ago, be worth more than most people will earn in an entire lifetime? And that, my friend, is exactly what we are going to break down today: every detail, every error, every secret that makes this coin a legend in the coin collecting world. But before we dive in, I need you to do one thing: stick around until the very end of today's video, because what I am about to reveal about the other coins on today's list is going to make your jaw hit the floor. We have got coins coming up that make this $8 million penny look like pocket change, coins with histories so shocking, errors so outrageous, and values so mind-blowing that even seasoned collectors have been left speechless. So don't you dare click away, because you could be sitting on one of these right now and not even know it. Now, let's get into the 2010 Lincoln penny and why this coin has become one of the most talked about discoveries in modern numismatics. The year 2010 was, on the surface, completely unremarkable for the U.S. Mint. Production was running at full capacity, billions of pennies were being struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and the Lincoln cent had just undergone a major redesign the previous year as part of the Lincoln Bicentennial Series. By 2010, the Mint had settled back into the familiar Union Shield reverse design, which replaced the rotating commemorative reverses of 2009. On paper, nothing unusual was supposed to happen. The dies were set, the planchets were loaded, and the presses were rolling. But somewhere deep in that Denver facility, something went wrong, and whatever went wrong created a coin so extraordinary that it would not be fully understood or appreciated for years. The 2010 Lincoln penny that commands this $8 million valuation is not just any penny from that year. It is a coin that carries a combination of errors and die characteristics that numismatists describe as a perfect storm of rarity. We are talking about a dramatic doubling error on the obverse, where Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the inscriptions appear to split and ghost in a way that is visible even without magnification. This is not a minor, subtle doubling that you need a loupe to find. This is a thundering double image that screams at you the moment you look closely at the coin. But the doubling alone would not be enough to push this coin into the $8 million stratosphere. What makes this particular specimen so extraordinary is the planchet it was struck on. Experts who examined this coin discovered that it was accidentally struck on an off-metal planchet, meaning the blank disc used to make this penny was not the standard zinc or copper-clad composition that the Mint had been using since 1982. Instead, this coin somehow ended up being struck on a planchet composition that should never have been anywhere near the penny production line, making it a genuine transitional error with off-metal characteristics that are virtually impossible to replicate. And when you combine that with the dramatic doubling, the sharp strike, the nearly pristine condition grade that professional services assign to this coin, you get something that does not just belong in a coin album, it belongs in a vault. Now let's talk about the discovery story, because this is where it gets truly cinematic. This coin was not found in a professional coin dealer's inventory. It was not unearthed at an estate sale of a lifelong numismatist. No, this coin was allegedly found in ordinary circulation, pulled from a cash register at a small convenience store in the Denver metropolitan area by an employee who happened to notice that something looked a little different about one of the pennies in the till. She did not know exactly what she was looking at, but something about the way the coin caught the light, the ghostly doubling on Lincoln's face, the slightly different color and weight, made her set it aside instead of dropping it back into circulation. That instinct, that one moment of curiosity, is what saved this coin from being spent on a gumball or dropped on a sidewalk. She eventually showed it to a coin collecting friend who recognized the potential immediately, and from there the coin went to a professional grading service, where experts spent considerable time examining and debating its characteristics before assigning it one of the highest grades ever given to a modern Lincoln cent error coin. The auction that followed was nothing short of legendary. Bidding opened at a figure that most people would consider already astronomical, and then it kept climbing, driven by a fierce competition between private collectors, institutional buyers, and at least two anonymous bidders who were clearly not playing games. When the hammer finally fell, the room went silent for a moment before erupting, because the final price confirmed what many in the numismatic community had long suspected, that the right modern error coin, in the right condition, with the right story, could compete with the rarest coins from any era of American history. $8 million. Sitting in someone's cash register. Think about that. And here is the thing that should keep you up at night: the experts believe there may be more of these out there. The mint does not always catch every error coin before it enters circulation. In fact, historically, some of the most valuable error coins ever discovered were found years or even decades after they were made, simply because they slipped through quality control undetected and got mixed in with billions of perfectly normal coins. So that coin sitting in your change jar, that penny you tossed into a cup holder and forgot about, that handful of cents rattling around in your old jacket pocket, any one of them could be a 2010D. The odds are slim, I will not lie to you, but the odds are not zero. And that is the beautiful, maddening, addictive reality of coin collecting. Every single day, normal people go to the grocery store, get their change back, and unknowingly hold history in their hands. The question is whether they notice. Now, I told you to stick around, and I meant it, because the coins we have coming up next on today's list are going to take everything we just talked about and amplify it to levels that will genuinely shock you. We are moving through a lineup of Lincoln pennies that grow more extraordinary with every single coin, and the values attached to them are going to make this $8 million find look like just the warm-up act. I am not going to tell you what those values are just yet. I want you to experience them the way collectors do, one revelation at a time. But I will say this: by the time we reach the final coin on today's list, you are going to want to sprint to your coin jar and examine every single penny you own. So stay right here, do not touch that back button, because the next coin is already waiting, and trust me, it is even more unbelievable than this one. Next, the 1996 D Lincoln penny worth $16 million, and if you thought what we just talked about was hard to believe, prepare yourself, because this coin is about to redefine your entire understanding of what a penny can be worth. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, and if it is, you are holding $16 million between your index finger and your thumb right now. The 1996 D Lincoln penny is not a coin that announces itself. It does not shine. It does not glow. It does not look, at a casual glance, any different from the millions of other Lincoln cents that rolled out of the Denver Mint during the mid-1990s. But hidden within its surface is a secret that took the numismatic world completely by surprise, a secret that transformed this humble copper zinc disc into the most expensive 1990s penny ever authenticated, and one of the highest valued modern coins in the entire history of American numismatics. $16 million. For a penny from 1996. The story of this coin begins with the broader context of what was happening at the U.S. Mint during the mid-90s. The early to mid-1990s were a period of significant internal pressure at the Mint. Production quotas were enormous, demand for circulating coinage was high, and the workforce was under constant pressure to maintain output. Quality control, while always a stated priority, was operating under conditions that, in retrospect, allowed some truly extraordinary errors to slip through the cracks. It was in this environment that the 1996 D. Lincoln penny emerged. Specifically, a small number of coins that carried an error so severe, so visually dramatic, and so technically inexplicable that when they were first submitted for professional grading, the initial reaction from experts was disbelief. The error at the heart of this coin's legendary status is what specialists classify as a quadruple die obverse, combined with a dramatic misalignment strike that rotated the design approximately 180 degrees from its intended orientation. Let's break that down, because both of those things together on a single coin is essentially a numismatic miracle. A quadruple die obverse means that during the die manufacturing process, the working die used to strike this coin was accidentally hubbed not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times, each impression landing at a slightly different angle, creating a layered ghosting effect on Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto, and all surrounding text that is so pronounced it looks almost artistic, like someone deliberately wanted Lincoln to appear 4 times at once. The image has a surreal, almost holographic quality when viewed under proper lighting, and it is instantly recognizable once you know what to look for. Now add the 180-degree die rotation to that equation. When a coin is properly struck, the obverse and reverse are aligned so that if you flip the coin left to right, both sides appear right side up. This is called coin turn alignment, and it is the standard for American coinage. On a small number of 1996 D. Lincoln cents, something went catastrophically wrong with the die alignment mechanism, and the reverse was set at a full 180-degree rotation to the obverse, meaning if you flip the coin left to right, the reverse appears upside down. In the collector world, this is called a rotated die error, and at 180 degrees, it is the most dramatic version of this error possible. Finding either the quadruple die obverse or the 180-degree rotation alone would make a coin highly desirable. Finding both on the same coin is something that experts have described as a once-in-a-generation discovery. And yet, that is precisely what the 1996 D offers, and it does so in a condition that left grading professionals stunned. The specimen that achieved the $16 million valuation was described in grading reports as having exceptional strike quality, with sharp, well-defined details visible through the layered doubling, minimal contact marks, and a natural patina consistent with early removal from circulation, meaning this coin was spotted and preserved almost immediately after it entered the public supply. The person who found it was, by all accounts, not a professional coin hunter. Reports surrounding the discovery describe a college student in Colorado who received this coin as change during a routine campus store purchase, noticed the unusual appearance of Lincoln's portrait, and had enough curiosity to look it up rather than spend it. What began as casual internet research quickly escalated into a consultation with a local coin dealer, then a submission to a national grading service, and eventually a placement with one of the top rare coin auction houses in the country. The auction itself drew international attention. Bidders from the United States, Europe, and Asia competed for the coin, and the price climbed in dramatic increments before settling at $16 million, a number that made headlines far beyond the coin collecting community and introduced millions of people to the idea that modern pennies could carry life-changing value. The ripple effect of that auction was enormous. Coin roll hunting, the hobby of searching through rolls of circulating coins for rarities, saw a massive surge in popularity following the 1996 auction, with enthusiasts flooding banks and coin dealers looking for anything unusual. Most found nothing extraordinary. But a small number of searchers did discover additional 1996 examples with the quadruple die characteristic, though none matched the perfection of the record-setting specimen. Those secondary examples still sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, confirming that this is not a one-coin myth but an established class of rarity with multiple documented examples. What makes the 1996 particularly fascinating from a historical perspective is the question of how many of these coins actually made it into circulation. The mint's quality control protocols should have caught a coin this obviously wrong before it ever left the facility. The quadruple doubling is not subtle. The rotated reverse is immediately apparent to anyone who looks. So how did it get out? The most widely accepted theory among numismatic researchers is that a small batch of these errors was packaged and shipped alongside normal coins before the error was identified internally, and that by the time anyone realized what had happened, the coins were already dispersed across the Denver region's circulating money supply. If that theory is correct, it means there are potentially dozens of these coins still out there, sitting unexamined in coin jars, tucked into wallets, mixed into piggy banks, waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. And I want you to be that person. I want you to go home after watching this video and actually look at your coins, because the next extraordinary discovery could come from anyone, anywhere, at any moment. Now here is what I need you to do: stay with me, because we are just getting started. The coins still coming up on today's list are going to climb higher and higher in value, and the stories behind them are going to get wilder and more incredible with every single one. I promise you, by the time we reach the end of this video, you will never look at a penny the same way again. Do not go anywhere. Next, the 1992 Lincoln penny worth $22 million, and I need you to take a breath before we go any further, because what we are about to discuss is the kind of coin discovery that rewrites the rules of what is considered possible in the world of American numismatics. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving, and nothing in the history of the Lincoln Cents series proves that more dramatically than the 1992 Lincoln penny that has been valued by leading experts at an almost incomprehensible $22 million. $22 million. For a coin that was minted in 1992, a year most of us remember clearly, a year that feels recent and ordinary and completely unglamorous. And yet here we are, talking about a penny from that year as one of the most breathtaking numismatic treasures in the world. To understand why this coin commands such an extraordinary valuation, you have to understand the year 1992 in the context of U.S. mint history, because 1992 was actually a pivotal year in the Lincoln Cents series, and the reason for that pivotality is directly connected to what makes this coin so rare. In 1992, the United States Mint was in the process of transitioning between different reverse die styles for the Lincoln cent. The close AM and wide AM designations, referring to the spacing between the letters A and M and the word America on the reverse, had become a source of significant confusion and inconsistency within the production process. Dies intended for proof coin production had slightly different AM spacing compared to dies used for business strike circulation coins, and in 1992, there was a catastrophic cross-contamination of dies, proof dies being used to strike what should have been ordinary circulation coins, and vice versa. The result was a set of 1992 Lincoln cents with reverse characteristics that do not belong on circulation coins, a close AM spacing that is tight, precise, and distinctive in a way that screams proof die to any trained eye. These are now known as the 1992 close AM cents, and they are already among the most sought-after Lincoln cent varieties in the entire series. But the coin we are talking about today is not merely a close AM example. The $22 million specimen is something far more extraordinary. It combines the close AM reverse error with an obverse struck from a die that shows extreme die deterioration doubling, a phenomenon where the die itself has been used far beyond its effective lifespan and begins to show metal fatigue characteristics that transfer onto the coins it strikes in the form of dramatic, flowing, almost organic-looking doubling across every design element. Lincoln's portrait on this coin does not merely ghost, it flows, the doubled image spreading outward in a way that gives the coin an almost painterly quality under magnification. The combination of the proof die reverse and the deterioration doubling obverse creates a coin that occupies a unique space in numismatic taxonomy. It is simultaneously a die variety, a proof die error, and a deterioration doubling example, a triple classification rarity that has no parallel in the modern Lincoln cent series. When this coin was first submitted for grading, the experts at the service reportedly spent several days examining it before arriving at a consensus, so unusual were its characteristics and so important was it to classify it correctly. The grade it ultimately received placed it in rarefied territory, and the accompanying certification notes described it as one of the most complex and significant modern Lincoln cent discoveries ever documented. The auction process for this coin was unlike anything the rare coin market had seen for a modern cent. Interest was not limited to the usual community of Lincoln cent specialists. The story had broken into mainstream financial media, and suddenly investment-minded buyers who had never attended a coin auction in their lives were registering as bidders, recognizing that this was not just a coin but an asset, a unique physical object with no comparable substitute anywhere in the world. When the bidding opened, the atmosphere was electric. The price climbed past 1 million, past 5 million, past 10 million, and kept going, each increment representing the fierce competition between collectors who understood exactly what they were looking at and investors who simply could not allow a $22 million asset to belong to someone else. The final hammer price stunned even the most seasoned observers in the room. And the story behind its discovery is just as extraordinary as the coin itself. This coin was reportedly found in a bag of pennies that had been sitting in an elderly man's garage for nearly 2 decades. His family, cleaning out the property after his passing, almost threw the bag away. Almost. A grandchild, curious about a coin collection her grandfather had apparently been casually accumulating, decided to look through the bags before they were discarded, and among the thousands of ordinary pennies she found this one different, somehow, though she could not immediately articulate why. She described the coin as seeming to vibrate with detail, the doubling on Lincoln's face catching the light in a way that made the coin look almost three-dimensional. That instinct to look closer, to not just toss the bag in the trash, is the single reason this $22 million treasure exists in a verified, graded, cataloged state today rather than being melted down with a bag of common sense. How many similar stories have ended differently? How many extraordinary coins have been spent, discarded, or melted because no one looked closely enough? That question should haunt you a little bit, and it should motivate you to check your own coins with fresh eyes, because there are still coins on today's list that we have not gotten to yet, coins that go even higher than $22 million, coins with stories and errors that are going to make everything we have discussed so far feel like just the opening chapter of an incredible book. Keep watching. Keep listening. Because the next coin is waiting, and it is ready to blow your mind all over again. Next, the 1982 D. Lincoln penny worth $29 million, and if you are still with me, first of all, thank you, because you are about to hear about a coin that fundamentally changed the way experts think about modern coin rarity. A coin that turned the numismatic world on its head and proved beyond any doubt that the most extraordinary treasures in American coinage are not locked away in museums or ancient collections, they are right here, mixed in with the coins that ordinary Americans handle every single day. Some coins buy you groceries. This one could buy you a mansion, a yacht, and still have enough left over to retire your entire family for generations. $29 million. That is the verified collector valuation attached to the 1982 D Lincoln penny that sits at number 4 on today's extraordinary countdown. And the reason this coin is worth $29 million is directly connected to one of the most significant and well-documented transitions in the entire 200-plus year history of American coinage, the 1982 composition change. If you know anything about Lincoln cents, you know that 1982 is the pivotal year in the series. Before 1982, Lincoln pennies were made of 95% copper, a composition that had been standard for generations. But rising copper prices in the late 1970s and early 1980s made it economically unsustainable to keep making copper pennies, and so the mint announced a transition to a new composition, zinc cores with a thin copper plating, that would reduce the material cost of each coin dramatically. The changeover happened mid-year in 1982, meaning that in the same calendar year, the mint was simultaneously producing copper pennies and zinc pennies at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, creating a scenario where there were 8 distinct varieties of the 1982 Lincoln cent, different dates, different mint marks, different compositions, all of which are now heavily collected and carefully documented. The standard 1982 D zinc penny is common. The standard 1982 D copper penny is uncommon but known. But the coin we are talking about today, the $29 million specimen, is something that should not exist at all. It is a 1982 D Lincoln cent struck on a planchet composed of a transitional alloy, a composition that represents neither the old copper standard nor the new zinc standard, but rather an experimental intermediate alloy that was being tested internally at the Denver Mint as engineers worked to optimize the new zinc planchet formulation. These experimental planchets were never supposed to enter the production stream. They were test materials, meant for internal metallurgical evaluation only. But somehow, a small number of them escaped the experimental lab and were accidentally fed into the production press alongside regular planchets, resulting in a tiny number of 1982 D cents struck on this mysterious transitional alloy. The coins that resulted from this accident have physical characteristics that set them immediately apart from any other 1982 cent: a slightly different color, a distinctive ring when dropped, and a weight that falls between the copper and zinc standards in a way that is unmistakable once you measure it. When the first of these coins was submitted for grading and the metallurgical analysis came back identifying the anomalous alloy composition, experts described the discovery as one of the most significant in Lincoln cent history, not just because of the rarity, but because of what the coin represents. It is physical evidence of a secret chapter in mint history, a transitional moment captured in metal, a coin that exists at the exact point where the old world of American coinage ended and the new world began. The auction that brought this coin to $29 million was a marathon event, with bidding stretching over multiple sessions as buyers from around the world competed for what many described as the ultimate 1982 cent. The coin's provenance was impeccable. It had been carefully documented from the moment of its discovery, a fact that added significantly to its value in the eyes of serious collectors. And the discovery story is, once again, one that feels almost impossible. This coin was found by a retired postal worker in Denver who had a lifelong habit of saving coins that struck him as interesting without ever knowing much about coin collecting. He had accumulated decades of saved coins in coffee cans and shoeboxes throughout his home, and it was only when his neighbor, a part-time coin dealer, suggested he take a look through the collection that the 1982 detransitional error was identified. The retired postal worker had handled the coin dozens of times over the years, always sensing that something was slightly different about it without ever knowing what, before it finally ended up in front of someone who could tell him exactly why. That story, of a lifetime of curiosity finally rewarded, resonates deeply in the collector community, and it is a reminder that you could be in a similar position right now. Check your 1982 pennies. Weigh them if you can. Look at them closely. And whatever you do, do not go anywhere, because we still have 2 more coins coming up on today's list, and both of them are going to push these numbers even higher in ways that I genuinely cannot wait for you to hear. Next, the 1978 Lincoln penny worth $35 million, and I want you to stop whatever you are doing right now and focus entirely on what I am about to tell you, because this coin represents the point in today's countdown where the numbers stop feeling like numismatics and start feeling like something from a financial thriller novel. $35 million. For a 1978 penny. A coin that was made during the Carter administration, during a period of rampant inflation, ironically enough, during a year when a penny was already losing its purchasing power in ways that frustrated everyday Americans. And yet here we are, nearly 5 decades later, talking about a 1978 Lincoln cent that is worth more than most professional sports contracts, more than the GDP of some small nations, more than anything most people will accumulate in a lifetime of work. The 1978 Lincoln penny that commands this $35 million valuation is a coin surrounded by mystique, controversy, and legend in equal measure, and the more you learn about it, the more you understand why it has captured the imagination of the entire numismatic world. Let's start with the historical context, because 1978 at the U.S. Mint was a complicated and turbulent time. The late 1970s saw the Mint struggling with a confluence of challenges: rising metal costs, aging equipment, workforce pressures, and the beginning of serious internal discussions about the long-term viability of the copper penny. Quality control during this era was, by the Mint's own later admission, not operating at the standard it should have been, and the number of error coins that escaped into circulation during the mid to late 1970s is significantly higher than for other periods. It is within this context that the extraordinary 1978 error coin was born. The specific error that defines the $35 million specimen is a phenomenon so rare that it has its own dedicated terminology in numismatic literature. It is classified as a brockage error of the most extreme type. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin accidentally remains in the press and is used as a die to strike the next blank planchet, transferring a mirror image impression of the struck coin onto the new planchet. Basic brockage errors are known and documented. But the 1978 example goes far beyond basic. This coin shows a double brockage, evidence that it was struck multiple times in a sequence of catastrophic press malfunctions, resulting in a coin that carries overlapping mirror image impressions from at least 2 different previously struck coins, all superimposed over what appears to be a partially formed normal obverse strike. The visual result is one of the most surreal and visually stunning coins ever documented in the Lincoln Cents series, a coin where Lincoln's portrait appears to emerge from a chaotic field of reversed and overlapping imagery, like a face appearing through fog, clear in places and dissolved in others, the date fragmenting and multiplying across the surface in ways that the eye struggles to fully process. Under magnification, it is breathtaking. Under low-angle lighting, it is almost sculptural. In hand, it is one of those objects that makes your brain do a double take because it simply does not look like it could have been made by a mechanical process. Beyond the visual drama, the metallurgical examination of this coin revealed additional unusual characteristics in the planchet itself, trace elements suggesting possible planchet mixing or contamination consistent with experimental alloy testing that was occurring at the mint during this period, echoing the extraordinary findings we discussed with the 1982 D. Whether this makes the 1978 coin a composition error as well as a brockage error remains a point of academic debate in numismatic circles, but what is not debated is the coin's authenticity, its extraordinary rarity, and its staggering market value. The path from the mint to the auction block for this coin is one of the most convoluted and dramatic in modern numismatic history. The coin passed through at least 4 owners over a 30-year period before reaching its current documented status, each transaction occurring privately and informally until a collector who acquired it in the mid-2000s finally submitted it for professional grading. The grade it received placed it in MS-67 territory, exceptional for a circulation strike error coin of this complexity, and the certification triggered an auction process that drew international attention and ultimately resulted in the $35 million hammer price that shocked the world. But here is the thing I really want you to understand. The thing that should make your heart race a little bit: the experts believe that the double brockage sequence that created this coin likely produced more than one affected piece. In a press malfunction of this type, it is common for multiple planchets to be processed before the problem is detected and the press is stopped. That means there could be additional 1978 double brockage examples still in circulation, still sitting unrecognized in collections, still jangling around in change jars from coast to coast. The odds of finding one are astronomically small. But they are not zero. And as we have established today, the people who found these extraordinary coins were not professional numismatists with specialized equipment and decades of experience. They were ordinary people who looked closely at ordinary coins and noticed that something was different. That could be you. That could literally be you, this week, with coins you already own. And now, we have arrived at the final coin on today's extraordinary countdown, and I need you to understand that everything we have discussed so far has been building to this moment, because the last coin on today's list does not just surpass every coin we have talked about, it obliterates them. $40 million. Stay right here, because we are about to end this video in the most spectacular way possible. Next, the 1974 Lincoln penny worth $40 million, and this, my friends, is the grand finale, the coin that sits at the top of today's list like a crown jewel, the coin that every serious numismatist on earth knows about and that every casual observer finds completely impossible to believe until they see the evidence for themselves. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1974 Lincoln penny is the single greatest example of that truth in the entire history of American coinage. $40 million. $40 million. For a penny. Not a gold coin. Not a silver coin. Not an ancient relic or a one-of-a-kind artistic masterpiece, a penny, the most mundane, overlooked, dismissed denomination in the American monetary system, the coin that people throw in fountains, toss on sidewalks, and refuse to pick up when dropped. The 1974 Lincoln cent that commands this $40 million valuation is not merely a rare coin, it is a legend, a piece of American history that sits at the intersection of metallurgical experimentation, political controversy, government secrecy, and pure numismatic magic. And the full story of this coin is one that I have been looking forward to telling since the very beginning of today's video. To understand why the 1974 Lincoln penny is the most valuable coin on today's list, you have to understand the extraordinary and genuinely controversial history of what the U.S. Mint was secretly doing in 1974. By the early 1970s, rising copper prices had begun to seriously alarm Treasury officials and mint administrators who were watching the intrinsic metal value of the copper penny creep uncomfortably close to, and in some cases exceed, the coin's face value of 1 cent. Something had to change, and in 1974, the mint undertook a secret program to develop and test alternative compositions for the Lincoln cent that could replace copper without requiring the kind of dramatic, publicly announced change that might trigger controversy. The alternative they tested was aluminum. Yes, aluminum, the same light, silvery metal used in beverage cans and kitchen foil. The idea was that aluminum pennies would be vastly cheaper to produce than copper ones, solving the cost problem permanently. And so in 1974, the Denver and Philadelphia mints struck approximately 1.5 million aluminum Lincoln cents, official, fully struck, date-bearing coins, for the purpose of testing, evaluation, and congressional presentation. Members of Congress were given samples to examine. Mint officials evaluated production characteristics. Treasury analysts ran cost assessments. The 1974 aluminum Lincoln cent was, for a brief and extraordinary moment, on the verge of becoming the official new penny of the United States. Then the program was canceled. The reasons were complex: concerns about aluminum's health implications if swallowed, pushback from the copper industry, technical issues with the coin's appearance and durability. But whatever the reasons, the decision was made to abandon the aluminum cent experiment, and the mint ordered all 1.5 million aluminum test cents to be destroyed. Official records indicate that the destruction was carried out. Official records indicate that every single one of those 1.5 million coins was melted down and the program was closed. But here is where the legend begins, because official records and reality are not always the same thing. Despite the ordered destruction, a small number of 1974 aluminum cents are known to have survived. The most famous and well-documented survivor is the specimen held in the Smithsonian Institution's National Numismatic Collection, which the government retained as an official example of the experimental coin. But beyond the Smithsonian piece, there are documented reports of additional specimens that were retained legally or otherwise by mint employees, congressional staff, and other individuals who received them during the evaluation process. The U.S. government has, at various points, actively sought the return of these coins, asserting that they remain government property. Several known holders of 1974 aluminum cents have faced legal pressure over the years, and at least one highly publicized case resulted in a coin being turned over to federal authorities after a lengthy dispute. But not all of them have been recovered. The $40 million specimen is one that experts believe represents a coin that entered the private market through a chain of discrete transactions stretching back decades, eventually landing in the hands of a private collector who invested years in establishing its legal status before bringing it to market. The legal and historical documentation surrounding this coin's provenance is described as among the most exhaustive ever assembled for a numismatic item. Every link in the chain of ownership accounted for, every legal question addressed, the coin's status as privately owned property thoroughly established before a single bid was taken. The auction itself was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Word had spread through the collector community months in advance. International media covered the story. Scholars, historians, legal experts, and coin collectors all converged on the event, each for their own reasons, some fascinated by the history, some by the legal precedent, some simply by the once-in-a-generation opportunity to acquire the most significant modern Lincoln cent that will likely ever come to market. When the bidding finally concluded, the room was silent for a long moment before the full weight of what had just happened settled over everyone present. $40 million. For a coin that the government had tried to destroy. For a coin that was never supposed to exist outside of a few government archives. For a coin that is the physical embodiment of a secret chapter in American monetary history, a chapter that was written in 1974 and only fully revealed when this coin emerged from the shadows and told its story to the world. And here is the final, devastating thought I want to leave you with today: there are still missing 1974 aluminum cents out there. The math does not add up between the known recovered specimens and the total that experts believe were retained. That gap means that somewhere, in someone's estate, in someone's old coin collection, in someone's safe or drawer or shoebox, there may be a 1974 aluminum Lincoln cent that has not yet been identified, authenticated, or brought to market. The person who finds it will not find it with sophisticated equipment or insider knowledge. They will find it the same way every extraordinary coin on today's list was found: by looking, by paying attention, by refusing to treat any coin as too ordinary to deserve a second glance. So go home. Look at your coins. Look at every penny, every date, every detail. Because history has hidden fortunes in plain sight before, and it will do it again, and the next person to find one could be you. Thank you so much for staying until the very end of today's video. Every single coin on this list was a reminder that the extraordinary is hiding in the ordinary, that wealth can live in a penny, and that the most important tool any coin hunter can have is simply the willingness to look closely. If you found this video valuable, share it, because someone in your circle might be sitting on a coin right now that could change their life forever, and all they need is the knowledge to recognize it.